Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Vinny here with another great business to discuss on this episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. Today's guest is Andrea, and he's selling his Amazon KDP business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. So welcome to the show, Andrea. How are you doing today?
Hey, thank you very much. I'm doing very well. Very excited to be here.
That's awesome, and we're just equally excited to talk about your business and find out much more about it, its background and how you got to creating it and why you're selling it today. Just before we get into the meat of everything, I just want to go over a summary of it for our listeners. So today we've got an Amazon KDP business and it's in mixed niches. It was created in September 2018. The average monthly revenue for the business is $1,736, and it equally makes an average of $1,736 per month in net profit. So the assets included 47 ebooks, 22 audiobooks, 165 physical books. It comes with 6 publishing accounts, which are Draft2 Digital, Google Play, Ingram Spark, ACX, Authors Republic, and Publish Drive. There are employee contracts and relationships, and the sellers also provided SOPs. You can head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 48428 to learn more about the business. If you want to start your due diligence, just remember to unlock the listing first. Now that I've given that general overview, Andrea, can you tell us a bit about how you got started in online businesses? What's your experience? Did you sort of stumble into it, or a friend tell you about it? How did you get started?
Of course. So I've always loved to be around a computer. I'm a bit of a nerd. And so I was very excited 3 years ago when I discovered the self-publishing business. How that happened? Well, I simply received a Kobo device as a gift. And I started wondering how those books were going to get produced, because I realized that we're not coming from, very famous publishing houses. And so after a little bit of research, actually after a few months of research and a few courses, I came up with this idea of starting doing that myself. And that's how I started.
Fair enough. So it sounds like you spotted an opportunity in the market and then you sort of decided to explore that option.
Yeah, exactly. I like new things. I like to dive in and try my best. And actually, it turns out it worked pretty well.
Sounds awesome. So you've gone with the Amazon KDP business model. Why do you think that this business model is really good for people who are, interested in starting up with an online business?
Okay, so first of all, when you start, you don't need a huge capital, which is a great thing, of course. And on the other hand, you can start generate some profits in a few months. Of course, if you do a pretty good job. You have to spot the right keywords, the right niche, and have a system that actually works. You cannot just, improvise. And the second thing is that once everything is set up and you have reached a decent amount of books, and of course that's up to you, that can be pretty passive if you have put some system in place that can sustain the business itself.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. I mean, everyone wants to run a business where, it's pretty hands-off and it generates a pretty steady income. So that sounds like a pretty reasonable answer for sure.
Well, at the same time, I'm sorry, don't get me wrong, it's not just easy money. Of course, some hard work, at least at the beginning, of course, required. But then, of course, it can give you results in the following months and even years.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. Yeah, like I say, it takes a bit of time, a bit of sweat equity to get going. But once you put in the hard work and you, like you say, automate a lot of the processes, it kind of runs itself in over time, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. So with your particular business, obviously a lot of the books in different niches. Can I ask, why is there such a wide spread in terms of where you're publishing books?
Okay, so at first I started analyzing the market, trying to find the best opportunity. With opportunity, I mean the most burning problem for people that I was able to solve with a nice and helpful answer. Okay, so at first I started with a health and culinary niche, which was pretty interesting and a great experience to start with. And then I decided to explore other niches, which surprisingly worked very, very well. And I've then decided, how to say, not to put all my eggs in one basket, okay? Because working with Amazon, it's very nice. It's the biggest market, of course, but it can also be very dangerous because they can change their rules. You have to play by their rules. And, in the long term, I felt more safe also to spread my eggs in different baskets, okay? Then, of course, I also had a small problem with Amazon, and that was a push for spreading my eggs around, as I like to say. But that turned out to be pretty interesting, especially in the money return, in the ROI, because this way I was able to generate a pretty passive income that otherwise on Amazon wouldn't be possible without a lot of advertising and pay-per-clicks, a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. So trying to diversify, trying to target a few different needs in the market. I just want to check then, like your business is pretty hands-off at this time, it doesn't require a lot of input from you, and it's, making a decent income each month. So everyone's going to be asking, why are you selling the business right now?
Okay, there are basically two reasons why I'm selling this business. So it's not my primary business. I also have a company which I'm putting most of my focus on. And honestly, I haven't really touched this business in the last 2 years. I mean, of course, I've done some works or new edition or playing a little bit with the prices here and there, but not major content has been added and so on. To start my third business. And of course, I need some capital to start. So that's the first reason I would like to sell my business. And now I need a little bit of time to think about the second reason.
No worries. I mean, yeah, from the sounds of it, like you say, it's time to sort of move on because you've not really... It sounds like it's sort of come to its natural conclusion because you've not really worked on it so much in the past couple of years, but also, like you say, you kind of want to raise a bit of capital to explore the opportunities, more or less.
Okay, now I got the second reasons in my head.
Yeah, sure. What is it?
So basically, since I haven't touched the business for so long and the new content or running any paid traffic, I think there is a lot of potential of growing this business. For example, imagine adding pay-per-clicks traffic or building an email list. Unfortunately, I didn't build an email list until now, but books are a very good way to build a strong email list and potentially use that also as a funnel to sell more high-ticket product. For example, in the health niche, you could collect a lot of emails and potential customers and therefore sell, high-ticket courses or physical products or a supplement on a monthly basis and so on and so on. On the other hand, the audiobook industry is booming, basically. So everybody is running after audiobooks, and until now I have just 22 audiobooks in a catalog of 47 titles. So there is a lot of room to expand that. And why I'm not doing that myself? Well, because I'm one person, I have 24 hours, and I'm already putting a lot of focus, time, and work on my primary business. And right now I want to start a second business. So, I would really like if someone can take this business and grow it in my place, because I definitely think there is potential for it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. I think it sounds like you've obviously identified one really, potentially big growth opportunity there. Like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, eventually they realize their limits, they realize how much time they actually have to, to invest into continue growing the business. And in this case, you recognize that if you wanted to, push it further by publishing more audiobooks, that's unfortunately not on the cards for you right now. But whoever picks it up, that's an easy win for them moving forward.
Yes, exactly. Especially right now, everybody's going after ACX, which is, of course, an Audible, which is, of course, the major marketplace and platforms. But most of the people underestimate the potential of all the minor platforms. There are more than 50 plus platforms selling audiobooks, and the whole industry is growing. So even those minor platforms, with the difference that those platforms have a lot less competition. So it's much easier to get a very stable income for the long term. While on ACX, it's harder to get a book selling well every month for a lot of months or years.
Yeah, that's definitely useful to bear in mind. I just then want to pick your brains and just understand a bit more about, what did you learn while you were in your journey of building this business. Was there anything that you tried that you felt didn't work while you were building this business?
Okay, yes, I understand that people do buy books from the covers. So you can have a super good content, but if your covers is mediocre or not perfectly good or not as good as your content, people won't buy your book. Then of course you need also a good content that comes after, in a way that before people have to buy the book, then they will read the book. Of course, if the cover is very beautiful and the content is not, then they will read bad reviews and your book will stop selling anyway. But with a decent cover or not very good cover, your book won't even start selling.
That is a very good tip. Yeah, you got to draw the people in. Like you say, they say don't judge the book by its cover in a lot of ways.
It's not true for that industry.
Yeah, it sounds like, unfortunately, the opposite there. You know, it's attractive to have a good cover and a good title as well. Makes sense. On the flip side then, what did you learn that did work while you were building the business?
Okay, so once again, quality, it's key in terms of content. Because as I was saying, if your content is not the best, if you didn't invest enough time to research the customer problem and not your ways of seeing the problem, that your book is not really going to sell. I mean, as in all the business, you don't have to think with your mind, but with the mind of your customers. And so really understand their needs and provide the best solution for them, not the best solution that you think is worth or you would like.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I think it's really easy to push out products that you think is helpful and stuff, but if you're not listening to the actual customer, sometimes you can really, really easily miss the mark and give them something that they're actually really looking for. So that's a really good tip, definitely. I just want to move over to the marketing side of things now. So do you do any paid advertising? Where does the majority of the traffic come from?
So the beauty of this business is that the traffic is 100% organic since basically 2 years. I haven't run any paid traffic, any paid promotion or stuff like that. Sometimes it happened 15 months ago to have some promo codes for the ebooks, free promo codes, but that was it.
Okay, so it sounds like everything is all organic search. Do you do anything in terms of marketing, or does it sort of generate itself at this point?
It basically generates itself. And the reason why is that good metadata. If your metadata are good and you have a lot of chances that your book is going to sell organically. Of course, if you have picked also the right niche and it's not too much competitive. Of course, if I would have published just on KDP, that would have been much harder because the competition there, it's crazy. And so you cannot rely just on organic traffic. But of these minor platforms that are always underestimated, you can rely on organic traffic for the long term.
Gotcha. So if you're not spending that much time or any time at all on the marketing side, can you tell our listeners what's the type of work that you do on the site for maintenance, like a daily basis or weekly basis?
Okay, so there is not a lot of my time that I usually spend on this business, maybe 1 or 2 hours a week. Usually it's just checking the dashboard to see if everything is okay, or updating the prices here and there, or experiment exactly new price points, or look around if there are new distribution platforms worth trying, and eventually publishing new edition if needed. That's all. It's not very much of my work here. My focus is on my main business right now.
Right, okay. So let's say, for example, I am not familiar with Amazon KDP or, publishing ebooks. What would you say are some of the skills that I should learn if I was completely new to, the niches or the business model?
Okay, let me think about it. So there are not too many technical skills that you need to know or develop. Actually, not at all. Of course, you need to learn how the business model works and to apply the strategies and sometimes be brave enough to experiment. And of course, if everybody zig, you try to zag. But of course, you need to know how the business model works more or less before trying to do your own way.
Okay, gotcha. So it's not necessarily a whole bunch of technical skills, but it's very important to basically know how publishing ebooks and stuff works before you get started.
Exactly. The only skill I would point out is marketing. Of course, if you're good at marketing, it's a skill that can be played with any business, and publishing is not an exception. But otherwise, usually technical skills are assigned to freelancers, and they will take care of it brilliantly. And of course, I can share all the contacts that I have developed in those years. there will be a great help for a potential buyer with that business.
Speaking of potential buyers, you've mentioned this earlier, you sort of alluded to this before, but I mean, you mentioned about exploring and publishing more audiobooks as a way to grow the business. Are there any other ways that you think you would try to grow it if you continued running this business?
Sure. So to sum up what I've already said, definitely focus on audiobooks, focus on building an email list, which could be a very powerful asset. Of course, trying to experiment with some paid traffic, which right now is equal to 0. But most importantly, I would focus on translating books. In fact, for example, in Spanish, I do have a book in Spanish that currently does 25% of my digital income, which is pretty a lot. And I was pretty surprised to see that. Of course, in the Spanish market, the competition is much lower. And the audience, on the other hand, is a lot, and it's becoming richer and richer, wealthier and wealthier, and therefore available to buy books. And there are also other markets that I think are interesting, and I would explore more. For example, the German market can be interesting, and in general, European markets. So France and Italian, maybe. I haven't done that yet myself, but I know for sure that the Spanish market can be a golden mine.
Gotcha. So exploring and penetrating these different markets by translating the current content into different languages.
Exactly. This is going to be even cheaper than producing a book from 0 in Spanish or in other language because, of course, the content, the idea, it's already there. You just need to find a translator on Upwork or whatever you like. And, you're going to spend much less and you're going to basically double your catalog.
Businesses, there's always going to be some element of risk. What are some of the biggest risks with your business that you think a buyer should be aware of?
Okay, so of course, trends can go away and new trends can appear. And of course, some books can die off. That is normal. On the other hand, I think I've picked pretty evergreens niches, trying to avoid the most possible those kind of things to happen. And on the other hand, as I was mentioning, you're not publishing on your own website. You're relying on someone else's platforms, and therefore you have to play by their rules. That means that, the algorithm can change, and those are kind of things that apply to most of online businesses. On the other hand, to try to protect or add a layer of protection on this business, I've decided to split it in those 6 platforms, and therefore I guess that would help to protect you from that.
Okay, I hear you. So the last 3 questions for you, Andrea. How much support are you offering buyers? Is it the standard 30 days of email?
Yes, that's correct. I think that's more than enough to ensure a smooth transition. But of course, if a call or several calls are needed, it won't be a problem at all. Of course, we are here about the business because it's a product of my work and I really would like that someone else can develop those books. I will be more than happy to help at the best of my possibility a new potential buyer.
Yeah, that's really good to hear that you're willing to offer a bit more support if necessary. I mean, are you willing to commit to a non-compete?
Yes, of course. I think that's the base.
Wonderful. So last question for you then, Andrea. I mean, if you step into the shoes of a buyer, why would you say that this is a business worth buying?
So I would pick 2 reasons. So if I were a potential buyer looking for a pretty stable and kind of passive income requiring pretty low amount of work, that could be a very interesting business because, as you've seen, it proves to be pretty stable in the past 2 years. And on the other hand, another kind of buyer that could be very interested in that is someone looking for spend a little time and active work in growing the business. And once again, I'm sure that with a little bit of paid ads, translating audiobooks, that income could easily double.
Wonderful. Is there anything that you'd like to share that you think I might have missed?
No, I think that's pretty all. And of course, if potential buyers have any question, I'm fully available for them.
Excellent stuff. Andrea, thank you so much for joining me for today's interview.
Thank you to you. It was a pleasure.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, you can head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 48428. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can click the link in the description and you can go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked the listing, you'll be given everything that you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.